Hello, everybody. Welcome. Good afternoon, good evening, or good morning, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to Raising Excellence, one of the most valuable hours of your day. I'm Michael, the MC and CC for this adventure today. And today's show is Values Exercise, the discovery and results. Continuing on step two in our own Tim Flynn's Foundations of Self Discovery. It's an 8-step process. And yes, we're talking about values today. So with me today, it's a small crew from our larger group. Agnieszka, our psychosomatic illuminator. Well, that was just our introduction part. I didn't even get to the actual first topic. But how are you today? I'm doing very well. I'm glad to be here. So it's just me and Agnieszka today. But we're going to try and cover, um, the discoveries that we had today on the exercise. And if you are viewing live, feel free to ask questions or leave comments, and we'll try and get to those as we see them. And so, with that said, awesome. Hello, Lisa. All right. So, with that said, we did do an exercise today. This was something that Tim described to us. And essentially, I don't know, if you want to tell us a little bit more about what we did as far as an exercise? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think certainly knowing your own values as well as being able to kind of distinguish your own values clearly is also a way that you can relate to other people better too, and then be able to kind of accurately discuss where your values may misalign, and how to go about resolving those kind of situations. So I think there's all kinds of different values, but the how do you describe this test? It's a word sort. Is that what you call it? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, as well as your, is the, the actual day to day, what you're doing. Are you really, is your life, a reflection of your values? Or are you, you know, constantly beating yourself up because you're making compromises on, you know, living your life versus what you think is valuable? So yeah, I think there's a lot of different ways and places you can take this. And certainly I think this is really just the beginning too, because there's many more things that you can do to really dig down into learning more about your values, and then also observing the values of other people, because a lot of times we don't understand other people's values and why they do things differently from us. And usually that's where the like a lot of misunderstandings happen, because we just don't understand like the context of why they think the way they do, that can also help us. Yeah, absolutely. I think I think that's another one is people don't care what you say until they know you care, and being able to relate how you care is really kind of important. So that's another way that we can kind of give people the why to what we do, why we do it. So let's talk a little bit about the actual exercise. Did you have any trouble going through the exercise? How did it go for you? I can hear you fine, but I don't, maybe it's mine. Is mine low? Okay. All right. Well, luckily we accept that. So, but beyond that, you were able to pare it down to six, and that seems right for you. Okay, well that sounds good. All right. Well, for me, when I started writing down, essentially the idea was we have this 100 words that describe values, and the idea was to write down as many of them as kind of brought some feeling forth, or felt like it was unique or valuable to you. And so I wrote down almost 50 of those. And I thought, oh boy, I'm going to have a hell of a time getting this down to five. And well, then I started that, the next part of like grouping them together. So I started like numbering them, like, okay, this is one for this kind of thing, and two for that kind of thing. And so then I was able to pretty much do that and pare it down pretty quickly. And when I got down to the one that I chose, I was like, wow, I'm pretty excited about these. And so then I actually kind of made a little bit of a statement around each word that made me feel even better about the whole thing. And I thought, wow, this is really a good exercise. So I was really happy with the results. Yeah, well, I keep getting better. I'm practicing, and I tend to be getting better. But I'm definitely willing to share that with anybody that wants to take it and run with it. Because I think it's a great way to live, honestly. Oh, absolutely. It's a great life. Absolutely. Yeah, that's an area that I think it's the book, The Discovery of Freedom. She refers to human being as being a dynamo, and essentially, when we put ourselves and elevate ourselves into that higher consciousness state of joy or forgiveness or happiness, that feeling that we get, contentment, love, confidence, all those good things, it does give you a lot of energy. It makes it a lot easier to get things done when you have a great deal of energy, and then that rubs off on other people too. When you ask them to do things for you, and you say, "Man, I really love to get this done," or something like that, and they'll be like, "I'd love to get it done for you. Wonderful." So I'm willing to share some of my selections in regard to the words that I used, and a little bit more about the description. Well, I'll do all of them if you want. Yeah, but honestly, I was going to read some of the words that I selected, and then which one I actually picked. So maybe I'll throw out like 10 and see which ones you think I picked, and maybe like 3 or 4 of them are actual. So let's see, achievement, charity, freedom, excellence. Excellence is another one. Leadership, motivation, passion, resilience, trustworthiness. I think that's about 10. Right? So out of there, I picked 3 of those as resilience, trustworthiness, passion. Well, you got one right. I did go with passion. So I went with excellence. How could I not go with excellence? Being that we're in raising excellence. Passion, collaboration, innovation, and wisdom was my 5 words. Well, I'm hearing you fine, so I don't know what it could be. Is it just on the yeah, you got to forgive us, folks. We're doing double duty at this point because we got just us 2 working, and when that's happening, it's kind of difficult to keep the conversation going and do all the extra work behind the scenes that make this thing flow so seamlessly otherwise. Yeah, I say we just press on.
Haha. Haha. I fixed it. Yay. So I think I have the right microphone on, so it should be better. Janet
Okay,
or Lisa,
great.
if you can still hear me. No, they can't. All right. Well, hopefully that's not going to be too bad in the recording.
All right. So getting back to, I revealed my 5 words, and again, I'll repeat them: excellent, passion, collaboration, innovation, and wisdom. How are you going to
Wait a
describe them in a
minute.
sentence?
You said I only got one right, but two of the ones that I said were in your list:
You said freedom,
passion and excellence.
resilience.
Oh, I
No,
said resilience, not excellence. Ah, you're right.
yeah, yeah. So, what were your words? Do you
My
want to share?
words, my number one word always is learning.
Oh, I love that one too. Yeah, that's a good one.
My number two always is love. According to some tests, my number one is love, but in here it came to second. Number three would be creativity. You know, out
Resilience.
solutions that are outside the box, putting together things that seemingly don't match and making them work together. You know what I mean? Things like that.
Yeah.
Number four would be vision, seeing the world as a better place, creating a better opportunity for others. And number five for me was appreciation. But appreciation was fighting with autonomy for the fifth
Hmm.
spot because they're both very, very important for me. So
Interesting.
appreciation and autonomy.
Yeah, well, there's really quite a few good ones in there. I would definitely identify with all of those as well. One of the things that I do with the ethical emergence course is I ask people to kind of write down a little description about themselves, maybe a paragraph or two about themselves and who they want to be, and then I introduce them to somebody else that they don't know that has done the same thing. They basically read each other's description of themselves, and you wouldn't believe how many times they identify with each other when it comes to kind of describing what are the things that we all find important. They're relatively similar, and I think for the most part, people can agree on a lot of these.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
it's interesting. This is an interesting exercise, and it's an interesting exercise to kind of talk to other people about
So,
because
how do you feel that this knowing these values is going to inform your next steps in what you're doing, in like whether you're doing it in personal life or work, community involvement? Like, how's that going to inform you?
well, I think like I mentioned the other day, the idea that these are kind of things that we want to incorporate into the practices of our daily lives. Um, the more that strongly we feel about them, the more we should be, dedicating time to them and making sure that they are an integral part of our lives. So, that's certainly one of the things that I think I certainly practice as a daily ritual or a daily practice, and being able to take some time to really review. Am I hitting on these things? Like Ben Franklin, he had 13, and every day he would visit on one. And like say for example, like I guess I think one of them was frugality or something like that, right? So he would essentially practice that. Now, my particular belief on that one is kind of less than. I don't think that's that important to me, but to him it was,
Sorry.
and so like revisiting it regularly was a way that he got better at it over time. And so I think that was is an important thing.
I think it's really important
Yeah.
to keep track on how we're getting better, how we're improving, and making ourselves, into better people. Because I think that a lot of, I don't know, a lot of people, is that true? I'm not sure if that's true. Some people, they feel that it was their parents' role to raise them, to develop them, right? And once they reach an age of maturity, they feel that that's how they are. That's how they're going to be. That's how I was brought up this way, and therefore this is what I am. But in reality, you're learning and changing and growing and developing every single day. And some days I can see the growth, and some days nothing happens. But I can still see that over time the progress is made. And that's why I really love that 5-year diary that I found on Amazon yesterday, the Q&A a
Yeah.
day. What
Yeah.
did you think of that?
Oh, I love that idea. I think it's awesome. As a matter of fact, I think I'm already stealing the idea to some degree because I do this kind of daily thought of the day, and I've been incorporating a question into each of the thoughts of the day as my kind of title block. And I'm thinking, well, maybe I'll just do that for my audience. And I'll just ask them a question a day, and then at some point in the future, I'll like review all these thoughts of the day and go back and see if I still think the same way about these thoughts for the day that I thought of,
5 years ago. Yeah.
5 years ago or whatever, 3 years ago, whatever time frame I decide most appropriate for me. But yeah, I think that's a great idea, man. I really do feel like that's a way to see yourself improving.
One of my writing coaches said to me once that if you don't read something that you wrote a couple years ago and you don't feel a little bit embarrassed about it, then you haven't been growing. And that's a little bit like, oh, well, what do you mean? Like, but I can see that. But you know what? It doesn't always work. Sometimes I read something that I wrote 5 or 10 years ago. I'm like, wow, that's actually not bad. That's pretty good. And sometimes I read it. I'm like, oh, you know what? I know how to do sentences. I know how to construct sentences better. And there are all these unnecessary words in this sentence. The sentence has 14 words. It could really use 6. Things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got to say, I had the experience of reading some of my letters when I was in the Army. I wrote letters to my mother and my father and quite a few other people. And then, of course, I saved a lot of the letters that people wrote me. And, so I got so those were put in a box by my mother at some point. And then somehow or another, I ended up discovering those, I don't know, about 2014 or something like that. So I got to revisit a lot of those, so they were like 20, 25 years old at that point. And it was very interesting to see the difference. Of course, 25, 30 years ago, people didn't have emails and stuff like that. They actually still wrote letters. And it was a much different world.
Yeah, but think about the difference, right? So you were in the army, right? And so
Yeah,
you were very linear thinking. You were following orders. You know what I mean? There were all these things going on. And right now, you're a spiritual person who lives, in paradise, who doesn't worry about the day nitty gritty problems of the day to day, who doesn't have to be confined by any sort of structure like that. So you basically went 180 degrees. You went from ultimate structure to no structure, where it's fully your responsibility to provide your own structure. How does that feel?
oh, it's tremendous. I Yeah, I never have recognized exactly how far I've gone in regards to my own freedom, but yeah, it's, it is tremendous. And taking, to me, I feel like taking on the responsibility of my own authority to do it my way.
You could
And
totally write a book about it. How I
yeah,
thought,
well,
how I
I
thought when I was in fully engaged in structure, and how I think
I
now
think
that I'm a freedom. Oh,
that's my ethical emergence course is part of that, and that's certainly something that came about. via me trying to write a book about what I thought was really valuable, how to get to where your sweet spot is yourself through the way experiences that I had that I thought was valuable.
Nice.
But,
Hello to Pamela. Yes, reviewing your journal. Sorry, we just got a text. Reviewing your journal. She was just reviewing her journal from last year. So she was seeing what she wrote on the same day last year, which I think is it's interesting. But having all in one book in that Q&A a day, each page has the 5 years next to each other. So you write in the first part, and then the second year you write below it, and you can see it next side by side each year. I think it would be
so that's essentially a 25-year commitment to writing the entire book.
Well, no, the Q&A is 5 years, right? You just go back to the beginning at the end of first year.
Oh, so every year you're going back.
Okay. Yeah, every year you go back.
Every year. I thought it was like every 5 years. So.
Oh, well. I would do a 25-year commitment. I can handle it.
Well, even a 5-year commitment is quite an exercise. It's certainly worthy of a book right there.
But, well, and it's not that much of a commitment. It's 10 seconds. You brush your teeth for 12 times that much. You know what I mean? Like, if you think about the amount of time you spend in a day brushing your teeth and the amount it takes to write one sentence, right? If you can brush your teeth, you can write a sentence in a diary every day. Especially if it does the same thing for your mental health as brushing your teeth does for your dental health.
Certainly does.
That rhymed, didn't it? Yeah, I'm cool.
Yeah. All right, so let's dig back into values and how important they are. One of the things that this is something that just occurred to me yesterday. I was participating with the Anarcho-Typical Tuesday meeting, which is always pretty valuable. And the guest on there was Becca Pagani, and she had some suggestions. And one of the things was, what are the traits that you find valuable in your best friend? And what do those require? And so I had to think about that for a second. And I really had some really warm feelings about, the couple of people that I have that I consider my best friends. They express some serious values, and I imagine that those would be also things that are valuable to know, that are things that you recognize in other people that are valuable. I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm thinking about the values that I have in my best friends, and my best friends are such a gamut. Like, all the people that are really close to me, especially over, decades or whatever, they really run a gamut. Like, I mean, I'm thinking of both of those people. And, there are many more, but just examples. And like Pam, with her huge smile, I mean,
absolutely.
That, like, you can drown in her smile. How cool is that? You don't need anything more if you have a smile that people can drown in. Well, we love you, Pam.
And she backs that up with a bubbly personality that's awesome too.
Exactly.
So it's like a double whammy.
Yeah, but if you saw her live, her smile is just like exactly like her personality. It just like,
I haven't had the pleasure, but I can imagine.
Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot, and the values also, like I mean, can we talk about our goals and our goal? Like,
I'm not going to stop you. Go ahead.
My goals were not always aligned with my values. Yeah. Sometimes in the past, I made goals to avoid things. Like, oh, I'm gonna take this job, but I'm just going to put minimum effort, and I'm gonna go home and watch TV as soon as I can. And that does not align with my values at all. How is it learning, loving, creative, visionary, or appreciative? None of that aligns with me going to a job where I'm just going to do the work and not learning, right? I would
Yeah.
say that if I'm taking on a task or a job or a project or something like that, it should at least align with a couple of them.
Oh,
Two.
absolutely.
I
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah, I agree. I guess, I don't know. I think I was, as far as goal setting goes, I think I came from the kind of background of Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And so, to some degree, his value exercise is one in which,
Hang on. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Isn't it Napoleon Hill?
Stephen Covey wrote 7 Habits of Highly Effective People.
Okay.
Napoleon
Maybe I'm
Hill wrote
remembering wrong.
Think and Grow Rich. Think and Grow Rich is Napoleon Hill.
Sorry.
But
I
in
should
the
know
in the
better.
Seven
You're the
Habits,
precise one.
in the 7 Habits, his value exercise is one in which he just asks you to imagine your own funeral and the people that are reading your eulogy.
Right.
Essentially, what would they be saying about you? And that's where he really kind of connects with what I think would be your value, you know, and how that relates to other people. But I think there's a lot of different ways that you can go about finding your values. And another thing that came up yesterday, I was talking with, actually, I was in that Tuesday night meeting, and Johnny Dufresne, who is kind of a mentor figure of mine to some degree, exceptionally good at what he does. But he was pointing out, how people's trigger, like when you're triggered, it's really kind of the context that you've got to understand, as well as, how that all breaks down into people's observance of their own values and virtues. And then how you interpret that could also deliver things. So like when our parents are doing stuff, as children, we're kind of collecting that kind of information. We're seeing how they apply their values to different situations, and then we're kind of deriving our own interpretation of that. But in some cases, because we're children, we don't understand like what are the other contexts that are going on that may have influenced that. So that maybe they didn't honor their values, but there was another reason over here that we weren't even aware of that made that all make sense. So so in like a lot of cases, you might find yourself disappointed in people because you don't think that they actually believe their values, but it might be that they actually do believe their values. It was just they had this other important value that you didn't recognize in those other sets, that made it unclear.
I remember as a small child, because when I was really young, I lived with my grandmother, and then I moved in with my parents when I was about 4 years old. And I remember as a 4-year-old first living with my parents going, because I never noticed it on my grandma's, but that's probably because it was like I was a baby and then I grew up. But with my parents, I actually showed up with like cognitive abilities, and I could, well, I mean, I knew my parents. We spent time together. We were visit together. I just didn't live. They were in university, so I didn't live with them until they got an apartment. And so as soon as they got in their own apartment, I was able to move in with them. And I remember thinking, okay, you're wrong. You don't understand, because that's not right. Like that's not what you're teaching me. Like, are you lost? I remember thinking
Yeah,
that they were lost. They forgot. They must have forgotten what they were teaching me yesterday, because yesterday they said truthfulness and today they're arguing about lies. That doesn't make sense. How does that
no,
work? So,
absolutely.
yeah. Yeah, it was interesting. And then I remember another like thing like that was my dad smoked cigarettes, but they were teaching me about the benefits of health and vegetables and all that. And my dad's a doctor. I was like, but how does that work? Like, the cigarettes are bad for you, and so why is this a big deal? And then my dad kept trying to quit and not succeeding, and He never quit for like 30 years after. But you know what I mean? Like, it was just like, how does that work? You're a doctor. You tell me that I need to eat vegetables, but you're smoking cigarettes. And I don't see you eating much vegetables either.
So one of the things I thought of is telling a story that kind of relates to one of the words that we picked as our value. And maybe that being a kind of a way for the audience to anchor, you know, how we got to that point, how that value meant something more to us. And so I'm offering to you, you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
You're just putting me on a spot now.
Well, do you want me to go first then? I'll tell my story,
All
and
right,
then
you
you
tell
can
your
tell your
story.
story. Okay.
Give me a minute.
So I'm going to talk about excellence, and I want to tell a story about my grandfather. So like during my summer times, when I wasn't going to school, I would get the chance to spend some time with my grandparents, and they were kind of retired farmers to some degree. They ran a garden vegetable stand in the summertime, and my grandpa would do all that kind of raising of the vegetables and stuff like that, and mainly on a 11-acre piece of land that he planted mostly sweet corn and tomatoes and green beans, and, a bunch of other vegetables. And he was super green thumb, I mean, just a magician when it came to like bringing, amazing vegetables to life. And so like he was known for his own. Actually had his own kind of sweet corn. It was kind of a blend of a white and yellow sweet corn. It was just super tasty. You almost didn't have to put butter on it. It was so tasty. And so, as a child, being able to be introduced to him as that kind of a person, plus as a businessman, plus as kind of a foundation and kind of cornerstone to the local community, because I would get to see him interact with all these people from the neighborhood and from really the city that came to see them and buy sweet corn because he was so well known for, this super duper stuff. Um, it just to me is that like he lived his life excellently. And for me, that's certainly something I want to do too. I want to actually make the best of my life, make the most of my life. I think he impacted a lot of people in the way that he wanted to. And that's certainly an example I want to carry on.
Yep. I think I figured out a story now too
Okay,
that I could
awesome.
say. So this is about love and appreciation and and expectations, I suppose. So when I was a child, I was the only child in the whole family. Like all my aunts and uncles were adults, and nobody had children for about 5 years after I was born. So I was a little spoiled. I lived with my grandpa and grandpa so that I could have the best childhood and not have to worry about my parents' study schedules. And and I, on my birthday, every year was like a big celebration, and all the uncles and aunts showed up, and it was like, I had 3 different parties every year, one for friends, one for this part of the family, one for that part of the family. It was a big deal. And so when I grew up in my early 20s, I moved down on my own, but I still had an expectations that people who love you will make you a birthday party. Of course, like why wouldn't they? You know what I mean? I had this, and it was a full-on expectation, right? And so one year I was expecting my group of best friends to do a birthday party for me. And I don't know if they did it on purpose or what, but my birthday was on like a Thursday and nothing happened. Thursday came and went and nothing happened. Like, of course, my mom called me or whatever, but I wasn't even living in the same city as my mom. And I was devastated. I was equating the expectation of a birthday party with the amount of care, love, and appreciation that my friends were had for me. Instead of taking the power inside me and finding how I can love and appreciate myself, I was completely wrapped up in the expectations of having an like, I mean, I didn't really care if it was a big birthday party or just to get together, but it was the memory, the remembering, you know, the hugs and the laughter and all that. That's what I was expecting. Or that's what my expectations were all about. And I didn't get that. I didn't get that at all. And for 2 days, I suffered with this, thinking that I was the worst person in the world. I'm totally unlovable. Nobody will ever like me again. If these people don't appreciate me, who know me so well, then how can I possibly expect to be appreciated by anybody ever in the world ever again? I am a complete loser. I should just shoot myself. On Saturday, though, there was a birthday party. And everybody appreciated me. And I got all the hugs and kisses and the cake and everything that I always wanted. But for 2 days, my world was thrown into a nightmare of living under a bridge alone in -30, which was none of it was true because I was living in a very temperate climate. But that's not the point. In my heart, it was -30.
Yeah.
And what I learned from the experience is this. Number one, love does not come from the outside. Love comes from the inside. People can show their love and appreciation for you, but the number one important person that needs to love and appreciate you is you, right?
Yeah.
That's the one biggest lesson. And same with appreciation. I have to show appreciation to myself before anybody else can appreciate me. Just like I have to show competence before people can perceive me as competent, I have to show appreciation in order to be appreciated. And so from then on, I mean, it took a couple years for me to figure this out, like cognitively figure it out. But from then on, what I did is every birthday, what I did is I sat and thought about the things that I'm missing in life. Like, what are you missing? What would you like? You know, one year I remember I was like, oh, you know, I really like coconut. And so I went to the grocery store. I bought everything that had to do with coconut. And it was my whole birthday. I was like, every day I was eating something coconut going, yeah, this is my birthday week. I got coconut. Yay. You know what I mean? And that was my own appreciation for myself. Didn't really need other people. Didn't really need outside input at all. Or I would phone people that I haven't talked to for a long time and ask them out for coffee. Like, you know, a friend that I used to work with 3 years ago. And we haven't really talked since, but I really enjoyed having lunches with her while I worked with her. Hey, you want to get together? It's my birthday soon. I just wanted to say have coffee, right? And the side effect was that they probably buy me a coffee, but the whole point was to see somebody I hadn't seen for a few years, you know, or a client that I really, really enjoy, but it's not appropriate to be personal on a client meeting. So you invite them for lunch, just a personal lunch. My birthday's coming up. Let's go for lunch. You know what I mean? And you get all of these experiences. I guess I'm all about experiences, right? All of these conversations and interactions and discoveries, you know. So I think the 2 days of suffering made me a better person. So thanks, friends from the early 90s.
Well, and I'm sure they didn't even realize that was a big deal. They thought they had it taken care of. It's that opportunity to really get to know yourself that you took advantage of.
I think my best friend knew, and I think she did it on purpose because she's that kind of person. But she probably did it on purpose for the right reasons. Yeah, for the right reasons, because I was very spoiled. When I was 19, I was very, like, you know, I was very spoiled. I was very haughty. So it was a good lesson. It was a very good lesson. Just like being a hermit in Quebec was a very good lesson. Very valuable.
All right. So have we gotten any questions or comments or other things other than the sound quality?
The only other comment was from Pam that we are sweet. Do you really think we are?
I try to be. I try.
I try to be not nice, but it's not working.
Well, let's kind of wrap it up and for today, and then maybe we can talk a little bit about what we're going to do tomorrow as the final version of this. We're going to have a few more people. Is Tim joining us for tomorrow? So Tim,
yeah, tomorrow we're going to definitely have Dennis, and most likely we'll have Tim as well. I'm not sure about the ladies, but we're going to be comparing because they didn't get to supply their values and what that means to them. And also,
Yeah.
we can talk a little bit more about goals tomorrow and how to most effectively set goals once after you've done the value sort.
Well, I think we were talking about a couple different paths we might take, and maybe we should just throw it out to the audience and see what they think. Maybe we can get some input from people if we want to just take it one way and go with I think we were talking about doing it all in 8 weeks versus maybe pushing it out a little bit more and doing some more uh, discovery in
Yeah, we can
regard to some of
definitely
these.
talk to the autonomy community folks and see what they think, for sure.
Yeah,
Or
I think
whoever
that's
wants to
another
comment.
thing that we can offer to our audience to
Yeah.
participate in where the show goes. Because one of the things that we did actually kind of discuss is this is a for us it's a little bit of an endeavor in which we are kind of opening ourselves up to the audience to get them to know us a little bit better and where we're coming from, but also an opportunity to kind of demonstrate as an example of what this stuff could do for each of our audience members, and so as we grow our audience, they can come back to this information, get to know us, and also get to know something that's really valuable.
Yeah, and also this weekend we're gonna have another face reading with Joshua. So if anybody is planning to listen, that you can check our channel. If you don't make it live, you can check our channel for a replay. And the other thing that we're working on is we're going to have a follow-up face reading with Dennis, because after his face reading, he had some really big insights, and he remembered some other things that happened to him that were, scary. So we'll
Wow.
definitely, yeah, like involving gangs and guns and robberies and near death
Oh,
experiences. So we will definitely do a follow up with Dennis for that one. And so everybody can tune in for that, as well as a brand new face reading with Joshua this weekend.
yeah. Well, I can say I did watch the face reading you did with Dennis, and I thought it was phenomenal. I really think it's something that people could get really excited about. Certainly, I think we're going to be beating down your door at some point in the future as we get more audience.
Well, so far, the
But
people that are really watching it and commenting to me about it are other psychosomatic therapists who are, looking at my techniques and things like that. So that's been a lot of fun. But the other thing is, we're also all preparing our own contributions. So, you're yourself, you were talking about doing some interviews as a special event. And also, I know that the ladies are working on some special events to showcase their talents and to work with people one-on-one on online. So I'm not sure exactly what that's going to entail, but I'm really looking forward to it.
yeah, yeah, this is the opportunity that we've got to not only get our audience to get to know us, but also get to see, what kind of valuable things that might come about or might be available to them. And certainly, being that we've got 6 people, and we all have different experiences, which one maybe aligns with, their own experience. So I think we've got a lot of things to offer to a lot of people, and certainly for our group of fellow students in autonomy, it's also an opportunity to help them find their purpose. And so I think there's just a ton of value that we're bringing to the table, and really want to emphasize that.
Sure.
So with that said, let's see, is there any closing things that we want to talk to hit on before we
We
call it commitment
appreciate
to the
all of
show?
our listeners, and we appreciate all the comments, and we thank you very much for your support, your feedback, and your contributions. Every feedback is considered and implemented as soon as we can. So,
Yeah, and remember our schedule. It's live every Monday and Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you can't make one, make two, or can't make three, find them on YouTube or wherever
just
you
listen
find
to
them.
replays.
Or I guess you can go to our website, right?
That's
Which
right.
is what?
RaisingExcellence.live.
Raising Excellence.
We're still
All
working
right.
on our website, but it's getting better every day. All
Yeah,
right.
and if anybody's out there that's a social media person,
Wants to help us out?
connect.
Connect. We can do. We can help you out while you help us out.
All right, folks. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Appreciate you taking the time.
Bye.